Jody Lurie, patient to be with us, credit analyst, barely describes it at Bloomberg Intelligence. Jody, how tipped upside down is your world given yield up, price down?
How tipped upside down. So I don't think the bond market is ever tipped upside down. I mean, obviously when we have a inverted yield curve, you could probably argue that. But otherwise, I would say that we sort of roll with the punches and you always find opportunities within the bond world. I mean, I think, not talking to my space, but just I think with the change in leadership at the Fed this week, it will be interesting to see all the different ways in which people are speculating what a wash sort of Fed will look like. But
Joe, do you follow a lot of the consumer-facing stocks, the travel industry, the consumer industry, the gaming industry? And there's so much, I guess, geopolitical angst out there in the marketplace, whether it be Iran, whether it be Ukraine, whether it be the Middle East. How does that reflect it in maybe how people are thinking about traveling as we go into the summer season?
So I think, Paul, what's interesting in listening to what David Doyle had to say is there is that resiliency in this consumer, and it's almost alarming because it's not, I wouldn't say it's Teflon. Consumers are definitely pivoting. They're definitely responding. They're definitely reacting, but they're still going on vacation. And I think that concept of life is fleeting and we only have so much time in this world continues to keep at least a certain portion of the population traveling. Now they will adapt and change in the ways in which they travel. And what's interesting is United Airlines just said that they expect the most travel this summer season. AAA said that they expect the most on the road travel for Memorial Day weekend coming up. And I think that's sort of interesting when you marry that with energy prices where they are and the fact that people are feeling it at the pump, but they're saying, even so, I'm not going to stop my short-term plans because of what's going on overseas, because of how that's directly affecting me.
So when you talk to, for example, I know you follow the cruise companies. I mean, those are companies in an industry that's really susceptible to the price of fuel. What are they telling you about their business?
So they're adapting just as much, and it depends on which company you're talking about, because some of them, like Royal Caribbean, have a hedging strategy, right? Oh, so they will be affected, but it's a little different than someone like Carnival that most of the time goes, without a hedging strategy. And so when you think about that, you say, okay, which companies are most exposed? That said, we have seen historically during certain flashpoints that Carnival has reacted by way of employing hedges, at least in a short term, but also there's only so much of the margin that does actually get affected. Now, where it sort of trickles down to the consumer is how they then sort of, push the expense onto the consumer by way of all these additional packages of the drink packages, the onboard spending, all those components. And I think what's so interesting is if you look at our travel survey data that came out last week, what we're talking about is people still want to spend on experiences, and they aren't actually, compared to November, they're less willing to cut back on experiences, and they're less willing to go for free or low cost experiences over more expensive activities. So I think, as much as we say the consumer is feeling the inflation, as much as we say the consumer is concerned, there's still that component that the consumer is still spending.
Yeah, I think what we've learned, Tom, is if you've got a job, that gives a lot of security and a lot of confidence to the consumer. Yeah. It's that simple.
Jody, the cruise industry, I mean, you're our expert on this. It's like booming. Like, are they building new ships? Do you have any idea? Like, do they use debt to build those ships?
Yes, they do, Tom. And it's similar to how you would think of a mortgage, right? So they put 20% down initially, and then they have a few years there where they can generate cash flow, and then they start paying it down. So those are special ship financing. They're called ECF, so export credit facilities, and they're actually run through these export credit agencies, which are, tied to the Italian government or German government. And of course, the reason why they do that is because these massive ships create a lot of jobs, right? And there's only a few countries that actually have the capacity and the ability to build these ships. And of course, they want to have them in their shipyards.
Is one of those countries America? Do we build the cruise ships? It's Cy in our control room, folks. He's like, Alaska's so yesterday for him.
Please.
He's like doing like the Danube River and, this. I mean, do we build our ships?
We don't build our ships, unfortunately. And, but we benefit from the standpoint that so many U.S. consumers use the ships. I mean, most of the cruise industry comes from the US. If you look at Norwegian, it's like 70-80% of their customer base is US centric. Yeah, and I think what's so interesting is that we're just seeing an expansion of the cruise industry in terms of ways in which they're cruising. So for example, Royal Caribbean is dipping into the river cruise in competition with Viking, and they're doing it in a relatively big way. And river cruises, I mean, the river ships are actually not that large of a CapEx undertaking as compared to, say, their Icon class ships, which are these massive Empire State Buildings on the side.
I mean, I'm looking here. It looks Norwegian Aura sailing 2027.
Yeah.
It looks like it's out of Avatar.
These are massive. I mean, they come into Aruba like they're.
Psy. It's like Broadway, folks. Our control room. You would not believe the union structure. Psy goes and he has a cabin that goes from port to starboard.
Yeah, exactly.
He can look up both sides.
Yep. He gets the drink package up there.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. All you can drink.
When you were at Bryn Mawr, did you think you'd be looking at cruise ships, Jody?
I did not, Tom. That was not even on my radar. I don't think I knew what a credit analyst was even at Bryn Mawr. Right. So it was definitely something that it's sort of comical. I will tell you, however, I was talking to a Newark public school for Career Day the other day. And one of the things that I thought about as I was building out my presentation, talking about my career path, is that things do come full circle, because I have spent a lot of time in the leisure industry and the restaurant industry. My first job out of, in high school was at Fuddruckers. I sold shoes for Aldo Shoe Store. So, I think there's a lot of areas in which you can see these sort of experiences kind of come full circle, and you have this additional insight into how these massive operations run just by working at a franchise of Fuddruckers.
You never know where this is going, Jody. Jody, I just gotta say, I mean, where she really started leisure was the Pullman. Yeah. At Bryn Mawr. I mean, Thursday nights at the Pullman. That's the way she rolls. Jody Lurie, thank you so much.